Good morning, it's Tom Soane, and I wanted to give everybody a bit of clarity about the stamp duty holiday that was announced yesterday. I did a live video yesterday just kind of breaking it out to everybody, and I guess everybody would have got the news anyway, but yesterday, obviously, as everybody knows by now, the government have announced a stamp duty holiday, and they've used the term holiday very cleverly, but they've announced a stamp duty holiday for purchases up to £500,000. Now that does not include, there's no holiday for additional homes or buy-to-let investors, property investors, that sort of thing. So I wanted to explain how it works if you're investing in property so that there's absolute clarity. So if you're buying a property between now and the 31st of March, but it's your principal home, it's your only home, only owned property, then you'll pay no stamp duty up to £500,000, which is great. That's going to really stimulate the property market, and there's a benefit for property investors there too, just in that aspect of the stamp duty holiday, and I'll explain that in a second. But for buy-to-let investors, people that are buying an additional property, there is still the 3% additional charge for stamp duty on top of the existing base rates of stamp duty. So let me try and clear that up, because that might sound a bit confusing if you're new to all of this. So normally you would pay stamp duty on any purchase, right? And at the moment it's free stamp duty, no stamp duty up to £125,000. And then you pay 2% for any purchase or for the amount between 125% and 250,000, and then it keeps growing like that. So if you're buying an additional property, you would then have to pay an additional stamp duty on top of that of 3%. So now you don't have to pay that base rate of stamp duty. You only pay the 3% stamp duty up to 500,000. And then after that, that's when you start going back to the normal rate, which is, I think, $500,000 up to 925. It's 5% plus your 3% and so on. So actually, if you're buying property to invest in up to 500 grand, then you're saving yourself something like, I'll try and work it out off the top of my head. So you're going to save yourself 2% stamp duty between 125 and 250,000. You're then going to save yourself 5% stamp duty between 250,000 and 500,000. So that's a pretty decent saving. So what does that mean for property investors? There's two things that this means to property investors. Number one, the obvious one, you're going to save a bit of money when you purchase a property. Number two is you're going to have a bigger market to sell to. It means that people might be able to pay a little bit more money for your property. Now, we're not talking hundreds of thousands of pounds, so don't get too excited, but we are talking about maybe an extra couple of grand. And I'll give you an example here. If you buy a property and you're doing it up to sell, or a flip to sell, and you do it up to a really good standard, and a first-time buyer comes along and they really want to buy your property from you, then now they won't have to, let's just say that price is going to be 200,000 as a nice easy round number. Now they won't have to spend any money on stamp duty, that buyer, which means they might be able to afford 202. Who knows? It's worth a try, but that's not the main benefit here. It's a potential benefit that you're going to have a bigger market, but it does mean that people might be able to spend a bit more. More people will be able to buy. I know it doesn't sound a lot of money, but that little bit of stamp duty saving helps more people come into the market, meaning you, if you're selling a property, have more market, more people, more buyers to sell to. So I think that's a really positive move from the government, and they've been clever by calling it a stamp duty holiday because they don't want it to sound permanent, and it's not going to be permanent. This will last up until the 31st of March. So get your completion in before then. Get your property deals done right now, and then you'll get them completed before that date. You'll benefit from the stamp duty. And by the way, has anyone got any sales that are going through now? Has anyone got any going to benefit from this accidentally? I know that I am. I'm just trying to buy a flat. The sale is, I'm just about to get the mortgage offer from the lender, and when it completes, I'll save myself a couple of grand in stamp duty. So I'm really happy about it. So how about you? Anyone else had any similar stories or going to benefit from this in any way? I'd love to hear from you. But just to recap very quickly, if you're buying a property as your main home, your single residence, your principal residence, whatever you want to call it, then you will pay no stamp duty up to £500,000. Fantastic. If it's an additional home, you're a buy-to-let investor, it's an investment property, whatever it may be, or however you want to describe it, then you will not pay the base rate stamp duty up to 500,000, but you will pay the normal 3% additional home stamp duty. So I hope that helps. Look, that clears it up. That's exactly what it is. So if you've got any more questions about stamp duty, of course, there are certain exemptions and certain situations where you might not pay the full stamp duty and so on and so on and so on. But in general, property right now, stamp duty holiday until 31st of March 2021, you're going to get a bit of a discount. So that leads me on to the next bit. Let's start buying properties. Is anybody out viewing at the moment? That would be awesome if we're really all taking advantage of this, getting out there and investing in property. It's really exciting. It's cool to be in property anyway. Don't forget my podcast, by the way, The Anonymous Landlord, because that's the dream, isn't it? That is the dream, to be the anonymous landlord. But there's more to it than that. It's a mindset. It's a system. It's a quality of life. So I'm interviewing lots of people who are anonymous landlords themselves, who've reached the dream. I'm interviewing property investor experts and seasoned veterans, but also people on the other side of the fence, keeping landlords compliant, letting agents and lawyers and solicitor and conveyancers and accountants and people that are, if you're a property investor, people that are in our everyday lives when it's dealing with properties, they're the guys that we need to hear from, right? They're the guys that give us the insights, the inside info. So anyway, my podcast, The Anonymous Landlord, it's on iTunes and Spotify and all of those places as usual. Or if you want, just follow the page, the Facebook page, The Anonymous Landlord, and it will announce every time a podcast comes out. So look, I hope that helps. Stamp duty holiday is go, and we can all benefit from it, and I hope everybody does. Let me know your stories. If you're going to save a few grand, I'd love to hear from you. That would be fantastic. And let's share it round. Let's share the success. Speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.